You know, it's exactly 1 year ago today that I made this video called Parable of the Sower. And I wouldn't have known that except that I was talking to a buddy of mine named the Woods of Jordan, Jordo Woods. But this video is in relation to that. I had made 3 videos when I first started on YouTube. One was called Romans 8:1 Compared. And then the second video I made was called The Parable of the Sower. Then the third one I made was called Luke 23/something or other, and also Acts 8:37. See, there's 2 instances that occurred when a Jehovah's Witness popped by my house. It was each time that I opened my heart to the Lord, considering that maybe the King James is God's word for English-speaking people. And God answered that thought each time with those 3 things. But this last year, when I got to thinking about it, I realized those 3 events occurred over the course of about 9 years. And those, as I mentioned, are detailed in those 3 videos. But this one I never mentioned. This last instance that occurred at Christmas of 2007. So it was just a few months earlier than the videos I'm mentioning that something happened that nailed me as being, why, even when I made those videos a year ago, I wouldn't have called myself this. But I have no problem with it now. I'm a King James only guy. Yep. Yeah, see, the reason why I didn't want to talk, I didn't want to mention that is because there's such a stigma attached to being called that. And the reason why is because there's a lot of people that will get in your face about the whole thing. Be very, very prideful and arrogant, you know, about it. And that's not right. I mean, Jesus was never full of pride, of course. God hates pride. It's very humbling to me when I consider those things that the Lord, in His great mercy, showed me regarding His Word. And I come to you with humility, mentioning even this event. Around Christmas of 2007, as you know from my other videos, I'm a Gideon. We hand out testaments at every opportunity. Well, I was going to go do a little talk at a Christian school of all things. There was a Gideon brother who I was with, and when I met up with him that day, he was really bummed. And I'll tell you why, and it may surprise you. Because I happen to have all King James Testaments with me. You see, the Gideons give out New King James and King James. And at the time, I had no problem with that. Not a big deal, not a problem at all. Because, see, I was being very careful that I didn't want to say, this is God's Word, this is not God's Word. I didn't have that problem with those other versions that I'd seen those deals with, like with Romans 8:1, which is a problem in all of them. Acts 8:37, which is once again a problem in all of them, except the New King James. But there are problems in the New King James, but that's not the point of this video. This guy and I had this heated discussion about the whole thing. Mostly it was because I couldn't understand, what's the problem? You know, I'm saying that I thought at the time the New King James was God's Word. Don't give me a problem with it, I kept telling him. But he had a definite problem with the King James, obviously, when he thought it was like a terrible thing that I brought him. Like these kids aren't going to understand this. So anyway, when I got home, you know, that evening, I prayed an awful lot about it and everything. And I just asked the Lord, how am I going to deal with this? You know, I mean, I don't get it. So I looked into some things online, you know, learning about some of the stuff about, you know, the history of the Bible and everything. And none of that stuff showed me anything, really. I never wanted to make that a goal to study, you know, history of stuff. I mean, if I'm going to read anything, I'm going to read God's Word and let God show me stuff. So I prayed about it. I was reading the stuff online, which, by the way, I've dealt with my video called KJV 1611/1639. That's the stuff that I really found, which was kind of cool too. So I did learn something there. But here's the biggest thing I learned. At the end of the evening, I thought, I'm just going to talk to this guy and say, look, I know what you're thinking. You know, it's only natural that we would want to help people understand God's Word. And then boom, I got my answer. When I thought it's only natural God reminded me of the verse that says, "The natural man receiveth not the things of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, for they are spiritually discerned." You see, it's not a natural thing for us to understand God's word. It's a supernatural thing. And what's more specific, it's a spiritual thing. That's what it says in the verse. For they are spiritually discerned. We can't know the answer to any of this stuff unless we open our heart to God and God shows us. So this is why it's even a waste of time for us to make a big argument about the whole thing. You know, one of the things, boy, what are we under attack here? What is all that? I don't know what the
Oh my goodness, it's a helicopter.
Helicopters all over the place here. They finally found me. Okay. So now I can't remember what I was saying. Yes, they are spiritually discerned. You know, we can argue with people all day. They're not going to get it. I mean, if they're going to close their mind off and their hearts off to God, they're going to close their ears off to us, of course. So don't be surprised if you feel the same way I do about God's word. People don't listen to you. They won't listen to God. They won't listen to you. Now, it's such a tricky thing that the devil has made of this, because when I say that, even it sounds like I'm being pompous and arrogant, like God only speaks to me. No, that's not true. God speaks to anyone. And he can speak to you if you ask him. So, don't come to me looking for an argument. You're not going to get one. But please pray and consider it. It is very important. God has given us his word. It's the only physical thing that we have of him with us right now. This is synonymous with Jesus, who is the word. God's word is with us, and we can learn from it if you open your heart to him. Thanks for watching. I think that was kind of long. Oh, and when I met up with him that day, he was really bummed. And I'll tell you why, and it may surprise you. Because I happen to have all King James Testaments with me. Yeah, can you imagine that? Heaven forbid. I had King James Testaments. Well, that upset him. So we got in a pretty heated discussion over the whole thing. And see, the Gideons give out New King James also, unfortunately. So anyway, I'm being visited by one of my children here coming to the door. Hey, come on in, join us here. Listen to Daddy Yip Yip on the. Come on in, hurry up, let all the heat out. I just let the van run for like half an hour, wasting a ton of gas warming this thing up. Okay, so I was just telling everybody about the event that occurred with the Gideons and the New King James thing. You've heard this story many times, right? Yeah, she's pretty bored with it. Okay, so anyways, what happens is the guy got all uptight about it. So, I got thinking, wow, that was unfortunate. Maybe I never mentioned in all the distraction here that it was I'm going to have to back up. Let's see. The point where I finally yielded myself and submitted to being a King James only guy. See, I never would ever, you know, when I made those videos last year in my vehicle, which by the way was my Honda Civic, which by the way I know you don't care, but it's sitting over there amongst a pile of vehicles that need to be fixed. I'm in my Odyssey right now. See, every time I need to fix one of my vehicles, what I do is I just buy a new one, you know, and leave the one sitting over there. And I know what you're thinking too. You're saying, okay, you're the problem why GM is having such a problem at Ford too. Hey, listen, you can't pin that rap on me. I buy used vehicles. All right, so this is my 99 Odyssey. You could say, when I'm just describing here, and the videos that I've got coming up that will be from in here, I guess are my adventures in Odyssey. Okay. Thank you.